All right, good morning, everyone. Of course, right on cue, Iris has come to join us. So say hello, Iris. She's sitting in my lap and purring. So I'm a little distracted right now. So, good morning, everyone. So, we left off yesterday. We were going to try and tackle a very complicated item from CamDawg that normally for a project like this is very much not a beginner item, but it does give us an excuse to talk about and use spell states, which is a very powerful enhanced edition feature. So I think this is a good time to play around with those and kind of show what they can do. So one thing I did want to take care of first, though, was that I realized when we made the where is it? The Tinkerer's Spectacles. So these are the items that if they were worn by a non-thief and non-gnome, they would confuse the target or confuse the wearer. And so basically, if you were a thief, you got blocked. If you were a gnome, you got blocked. You got the confusion spell, and then it would give you a permanent immunity to it. However, thinking about this later, I realized that this is a permanent block of the spell. So if you were to take off and remove this item, or even if you were to wear this item every time the game loaded, it would apply this permanent immunity every time, so that you would end up with, if you were to go look at your party members in, EE Keeper and Near Infinity, you'd have this repeated a whole bunch of times. This should properly be attached to the end of the confusion spell. So we're going to do that really quick. So let's open up the confusion spell. Then let's come back to the item. We're going to cut this. And we're going to add this to the spell as the last effect. Oh. So that pretty much if you are confused, when it is done, you're now permanently blocked from being confused ever again. And since this spell itself gets blocked, basically you're only going to get that one effect added to whoever's wearing it. So that was it. This is one of those things that I like to try and sit back and think about what we did in the stream before and realize that, oh yeah, there's a better way to do that, or this is problematic. So, and this happens all the time. Oh, there goes Iris. So let's just go ahead and make that change really quick. Let's come back to our override folder. We changed these two files. So we're going to drag these back to the repo. And then this goes into the items. All right, so just one quick fix for those. All right. So outside of that, today we are tackling the Realmshaper's brush from CamDawg. And like I said, you can see this is an exceptionally complicated idea for an item. So essentially, every hit, it basically paints the target red, green, or blue, and then depending on what color they currently are, and then on subsequent hints, once they're painted once, subsequent hints will do stuff depending on what color they are and what color they're turning to. And then that is complicated enough. And then for bonus points, if they go through the red, green, blue cycle, then everything gets negated and they get a rogue stone. So like I said, this is something that I would say is well beyond, keep in mind, this is supposed to be a tutorial pack for beginners doing items. And this is well beyond what I would ever expect a beginner to take on. But we're going to do it because it gives us a chance to talk about spell states. So spell states were something that they are in Icewind Dale 2, and as part of the enhanced edition, Avenger, and I mean DLTC EP Avenger, not Rogue Rebalancing Avenger. He was one of our coders. And so he imported the idea of spell states from Icewind Dale 2 to the EEs. And the reason why that we have to go into a little bit of modding history on the original engine, specifically AI scripting. On the original engine, there weren't ways to detect via script like a lot of spell effects. Like you couldn't tell if somebody was, had protection from evil up, or if somebody had, what are some other ones? If somebody had True Sight active, or if somebody, was under insect plague, that sort of thing. So we invented something called detectable spells. And it was never like a standalone mod, but pretty much anything that did advanced AI used detectable spells. And the reason why is that it basically exposed a lot of spell effects and made them available to scripting. So, for example, it's so that you wouldn't, for example, you wouldn't cast something, you wouldn't attack somebody who has physical mirror up if it's going to be blocked by physical mirror. And I did this by a combination of adding a whole bunch of stats, and then also using, there's a whole weapon proficiency table of which actual weapon proficiencies only use a tiny fraction of. So between the two, you could add all these effects that you could then detect via scripting and have your spellcasters and your enemies behave far more intelligently when targeting, essentially. So, and it was a little wonky because basically you would include this as part of your AI mod, and so multiple mods would try to do this. So you'd end up with a lot of redundancies, and then you'd also end up with anything that came after your mod didn't necessarily get handled correctly. And then the other thing too is if there is a bug in detectable spells itself, if somebody's using an outdated version, then you've got conflicting information coming from. So it wasn't the best solution, but it was good enough for AI scripting. And this is still, right, we're looking at the current version of Sword Coast Stratagems. David still has to use this for AI scripting on original BG2 because this is all we have. Now, on the EEs, like I said, we have what are called spell states. And these fulfill much of the same things, right? You've got protection from evil, but then you've got a whole bunch of other spell states that let us really dial in what we want, what we're looking for. So again, you've got the basic stuff like CamDawg commands, but you've also got stuff like, are they under chant, positive or negative chant? Are they under righteous wrath of the faithful? So there's all these spell states. Now, the bad news is that there's only 255 available. So as neat as these are, you can't just use them for everything. But for this item, we're going to have to use at least some. So our first problem is going to be finding an empty spell slot because we don't want to use an existing value. So our first little bit of TP2 code is going to be finding an available slot. And so one of the tricks you'd normally do with something like this is just find the highest one that's open, but you notice the back end of this has already got a bunch of, has got spell states out at 255. So hold on one second. I'm going to open up something really quick. It has a reference in my other window. Let me just open this up really quick. Okay. So we're going to copy this and we're going to find the first open slot we can, and then we're going to grab 4 spell slates that we're going to need for this item. So let's go back here. All right, so we are going to copy existing spell state.ids to the override. And first we're going to set states we're going to set default values for this. And generally we're going to use 0 so that it'll be easy to detect whether or not we get valid values. So we're going to go, this is called the brush. I think we're going to call these something like a brush. Yeah, it's a brush. So we're going to say G3 brush. red equal to 0. And then we're going to do the same for the other colors. Come on. Red, green, blue. And then for the rogue stone, we're also going to need a special state that we're going to call red-green. I did a lot of thinking about how we need to do this off stream, so that's why I already know that I'm going to need 4 states at least, and I could be wrong, right? We could do this and I'm going to find out that I need even more. So we've set up these variables that we're hoping to actually populate with actual spell state numbers. So next we're going to do a for loop. So a for loop, basically you start at a value and then you iterate through until you for in this case we're going to start at 127 because we know by default in BG2 1 through 126 are already filled. So we're going to start at 127. We're going to stop, and we want to run the loop until as long as index is below 256, because 256 and above are invalid spell states. And every loop plus index basically means we're going to increase index by 1. So the first time the loop runs, index is 127. The next time it runs, and then when the loop is done, index goes 1 up. It'll run with index equals 128, and then 129, 130, etc. And it will keep running until index equals 256, at which point this will stop. So that's your basic for loop. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use a command called replace evaluate. And effectively what replace evaluate is very similar to replace textually in that we're going to use a regular expression to match text, except that unlike replace textually, you can, once you have a match, you can do commands and actually manipulate things within that text itself. So you'll notice that in spell state, everything is, numbers and then a space and then some text. So effectively what we're looking to match is we're going to replace evaluate, caret. So the caret means it has to be at the beginning of the line, right? So in case there's, like a 127 that's not at the beginning of the line, we want to ignore it. So we're basically looking for caret. We're looking for that number. Then we're looking for a space or a tab, and possibly more than one. And then we don't care what's after that, right? So if we find 127 and then a space and then some text, we know that that value does not work. So replace the value. So if we match that, now what do we do? Actually, no, because we want to match the exact opposite of that. Okay. All right, we're going to throw in one more variable here. So we're going to do set found equals 0. So if this is here, we're going to set found equal to 1. Meaning that basically, if this is here, it means that spell state 127 already exists, like another mod has put it in. And if it is, then we're going to set found equal to 1, which means we've matched it. Oh, and really quick, I need to wrap this in my delimiters. And then at the end of replace evaluate, just like I said, it's kind of like replace textually in that this is your target and then this is what you replace it with. And effectively what I've done is we're going to match this text. We're going to set a variable if it's found, and then match 1 is basically the information between these targets. So basically we're not actually changing anything, but if we find it, we're setting a variable, and now we're going to use that variable to do something. So now we're going to say, if it wasn't found, if found equals 0, then we are going to grab it for one of these states. So the very first time, we're going to say, all right, patch if G3 brush red is not set, if it's also 0, oh, G3, begin, then we're going to set G3 brush red equal to the index, right? We're going to take that for G3 brush red end. Now, if G3 brush red is not 0, that means we've already set it. So for example, like the next slot, then we're going to grab it for green. And then same, if it's already been set for green, then we're going to try it for blue. We're going to set it for blue. And if blue's already been set, then finally we're going to grab it for red-green. Now, red-green is also the last one that we need. So we're going to do something else here for this. So in addition to setting it to the index, we're then going to set the index equal to 256. And the reason why we do that is because once we've set red-green, we're done, right? We don't need any more states. So setting index to 256, so the next time the for loop tries to run, it'll realize that index is 256 and it can stop. So this basically kills the loop so it doesn't keep going after we're done, right? At this point, we're officially done. And then we're just going to close out. And then in theory, we should not have changed anything at this point. So we're going to do a but only. So now, only if these 4 things are set. Right? If those 4 aren't set, it means that there aren't enough spell slots to actually do this. So we're going to do an action if. And we're just going to make sure that all of these are actually set. Now, I'm using a little bit of a programmer trick here in that things that are set to 0, 0 in programming language means false. So that's why I can say, like, if G3 brush red is false, right? And I know it's false because I set all of these to 0. So these are considered false when you do patch if statements like this. So these are all 0, so these are all false. So basically, if G3 brush red is false, then we're going to set it to 127 or whatever value it ends up to. Because that means next time it comes through, G3 brush red is going to be true because it has an actual value, and they'll go to the next one. So, and here, by going and, this will only be true if all 4 of these got moved off of their initial 0. So if this is all true, then we're going to append to spell state.ids. And just like tooltip, we're going to append new values. And so we're basically going to append the value, right? That'll be 127, and then it'll add this as the text. And we're going to do this for all 4 of these states. Oh, that's why. So we're going to do it for green. So does this is a little bit of some advanced stuff here. So if anybody has any questions, by all means, ask away. All right, so that should work. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at this in action and see if this works. All right, let's think about it. It's our first invocation of why do in the morning. All right, it ran. Let's see if it works. Let's go to our IDS. And we appended, so we've got 127, 128, 129, and 130 set to these values. And you'll notice they don't overlap with anything else that's here. So we now have created 4 spell states that we can now use in subsequent spells and other good stuff. So that's the first part. Now we've got the spell states available. So next up, we're going to make the actual item. Now, the basis of this item is essentially just a +4 halberd. So let's find ourselves the closest. I think we actually have a straight +4 halberd, and then we'll start worrying about all this stuff. But let's start with the halberd first. So let's go to items, halberds or halbs. Dragon's Breath is +4, so is Ravager. Dragon's Breath is basically a +4 with a bunch of extra damage. Okay. So we'll use this as our start. We're going to call this the G3C brush. Item. Okay. Now we are going to get rid of the color glows because those are specific to Dragon's Breath. And then we're also going to strip off all this elemental damage. It's just supposed to be just a straight up +4 halberd. So we now have a +4 halberd. So now we kind of need to think about how this is going to work, right? So there's basically going to be 4 possible states when I hit somebody. They're either going to be, they've not been hit before and they're not painted a color, or they are going to be painted red, green, or blue. And then depending on those, one of 3 things will happen. So we basically need to account for 4 initial states. And then we need to, within those states, on those 4 branches, one of 3 things could happen. So, did it not have +4 damage bonus? Oh, let me double check. Let's see. Got 1d10 with a 4 bonus to hit. Yep, no 4 damage bonus. Well spotted. Thank you. All right, let's resave this. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this halberd apply 4 spells, accounting for those 4 states. But before we apply those 4 spells, we're going to add 4 immunities based on what color they currently are. So effectively, we're going to have it hit you with, a spell for no color, a spell for red, a spell for green, a spell for blue. But preceding those, we're going to have effects that basically say, if you're not in spell state red, block the spell that does the red effects, right? If you're not in green, then ignore the one that does green effects. So we're going to add an effect. And first we'll do our 324s. Meaning of the resource and message. So basically, if you are, where's our spell state? All right. So if our spell state is not equal, and this one's going to be red, but because it's going to be a dynamic value, we're not going to set this quite yet. Actually, no, let's go ahead and set it. We'll manually set this, but we have to be aware that this is something that we'll change later. So let's change this to a decimal. No, not a decimal. As a number. There we go. So 127 is our red state. It'll be, we're going to permanently apply a spell and no save. And we're going to call this, the red spell is going to be G3C. And I'm just going to go brush red. Okay, so that will block. So basically, if you're not in the red state, then you're going to block the red spell. All right, so let's duplicate this for the green. All right, and the same idea. Green is going to be 128. And instead, we're going to cast the green spell. And then same for blue. It's going to be 129. And blue. And now we're going to have the actual spells being cast. Oh. Okay, and the cast is going to be, let's see, opcode 146. I'm going to cast it instantly. At level 1, it's going to be on preset target. Oh, did I set targets on those 324? I don't think I did. I'm going to have to go back. These are going to be instant permanent. Oh, and I also screwed up the timing on them. Ah, shoot. Okay. And this is going to be end of the string. G3C brass red. Yeah, the timing on this is wrong. We only want these to block it temporarily, so we want this to be instant limited. And we want it to be preset target. All right, I screwed that up. Need to fix that on all of these since they were all copied from the same thing. So even though this is a limited effect with a 0 duration, that is still long enough to block subsequent effects. Even though, like I said, the duration is 0. This is one of the things that takes care of this. Yeah, so Skelly, I talked about that a little bit. So effectively, so Skelly brought up that you could go past 256. So what this does is if we end up looking for spell states, the last spell state we're going to look for is 255. So if these do not get set before we hit 255, it means we don't have enough free spell states. So when we add, so when we go to add the item, we're going to make sure that we have valid spell states before we begin. Because again, if we don't have enough spell states, this item doesn't work. So it's something that's like, so that's the thing. All right. In something like Stats IDS, how do you look at what certain entries refer to? For example, how do I know what scripting state 4 is? So there's two ways. Like for that, I would actually just say, see where it's used. See if you can find it somewhere existing. Scripting state 4 app. All right, is it used in dialogues? It could actually just be that it's free. If it's not here, then you also need to look through opcodes and see if anything sets it. So, and it's possible that it's unused. Now, detectable states or detectable stats for the originals may take it over for something. So, all right, but yeah, all right, let's get back to our item real quick. All right. So let's see. So we've got it set up where it's going to, if you're not red, you get hit with red. If you're not blue, you're going to, if you're not in state red, you're going to be immune to red. If you're not in state blue, you're going to be hit with blue. If you're not in state green, you're going to be hit by green. So we also need to account for if somebody is in none of those states. Oh yeah, if somebody's in none of these states, they're going to be immune to all 3 of these. All right, yeah, so that problem solves itself. All right, so we need to cast red and green, and then blue too. And then we're also going to have a 4th cast of if they're in the none state, which we're going to call in. And so basically, if it's their first time being hit, they're going to be blocked from red, they're going to be blocked from green, they're going to be blocked from blue. So these 3 will fail and they'll get none. Now, we do need to account for if they're in red, they're going to get hit with red. We need to make sure that red in turn, and red and green and blue all in turn block in, because in is for the first hit. So we want to make sure that all of these also block in so that it also doesn't get applied. So that is, I think, what we need on the item. We might have to come back and revisit some stuff. But from here on, it's going to be all working with spells. So let's save this really quick. Now, because this item is going to rely on having these spell states present, we're going to have to put the same safeguards on it, right? If these 4 spell states aren't available and set, then we're not going to copy this item. So we need to wrap it in that check. So this is the CamDawg Realmshaper's brush. That's my CamDawg. I named it the brush. It's going to be, I'm pretty sure 27 and, or no, 27 and 28 were used here. So I think it's going to be 29 and 30. I'm not too worried about that quite yet. All right, so now let's take a yeah, no, I mean the spell state limit is very real and very rough because something like, you know, Sword Coast Stratagems uses quite a few slots, and I think Talents of Faerun does too. And I know Subtle Doctor also uses, I think, a lot of spell state slots. And so it's hard because there's so many neat things you can do with it. But yes, it's always a constant concern of the slots are limited, right? Am I stepping it? So it turns it into a compatibility concern. So, but I do at least want to show how we can use them and what you can do with them. Even though, you know, with the caveat that you guys, there may be times when you've got a great idea and it needs spell states and you kind of have to shelve it because you can't be confident that those are going to be there. So, all right, so we've made our brush. So let me think for a moment about how I want to. So each time somebody gets hit with it, right? So if they're red and they get hit by a different color, then they need to change, which means we need to peel back red. Okay. So I think we're going to need the 4 spells, and then we're going to need another 3. Yeah, we're going to need a lot. I think we're going to need 7 spells at least to pull this all off. So, all right. So we created the item with these, assuming that these spell states are going to be 127, 128, and 129. Now, those spell slates, you know, if some other mod goes before and takes up some of those spell states, we can't rely on these being 127, 128, and 129. So we're going to dynamically, we're going to use a function. We're going to launch patch function, alter effect. Now, alter effect is a function that comes built in to Ioun, and it basically lets you essentially match an effect and then make changes dynamically. So int var functions have 2 sets of variables that you can pass on to them. You can pass on integer variables and string variables. And let me actually pull up the Ioun doc so you guys can see some of them for alter effect. So basically, alter effect has, you know, some stuff that lets you do. Yeah, these are kind of some meta variables, but here's the big thing, right? We're going to use match opcode because we're targeting the opcode. We want to match the 324. And we want to specifically match, is it resource? Okay. Match resource equal to. So for example, if we want to target, get back here. If we want to target this one specifically, if we do opcode 324 and G3C brush red, that is enough to uniquely identify this. So we're going to match the resource G3C brush red. So that will match it. Now, what do we actually want to do when we find it? Well, we want to set the spell state to what red is actually going to be in this game. So this is, so this is the opcode, this is the target, this is the power. These two fields differ from opcode to opcode. So generically, this is parameter 1 and this is parameter 2. So we want to set parameter 1 equal to the spell state that we use for red. So we're not looking for a match. In this case, we're just saying straight up parameter 1 equals to whatever our red value ended up being. Right? So if it's an effect that has opcode 324 and this as the resource, then change, because this doesn't have a match, then change parameter 1 to this value. This is a variable and it's in the integers. So Wida will go, okay, what's the value for G3 brush red? And it will set it in there. And so we want to do that for all three of those 324s. Let's want to do it for green and blue. And we want green to be set to obviously green. We want blue to be set to blue. So whatever these values end up being, our spell will adapt to them real time. So if the first 4 open slots end up starting at 201, this will be 201, 202, 203. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so that is done. So now we need to think about the spells. So basically this is casting 4 spells on the target. 1 for red, 1 for green, 1 for blue, and then 1 for if they've not been hit by anything at all. Okay, let's save this. Now let's go to the spells. Yeah, so there's a series of three macros like this. There's alter, and then there's also clone and delete, and they all work on the same idea that you've got a series of parameters that will let you dial in the match, and then what you want to change it to. In the case of delete, obviously you're not changing it to anything; it's just matches. And then there's alter, which basically takes an existing effect and then changes something on it. There's clone, which takes an existing effect and then duplicates it, and it either duplicates it right in the same order, or you can put it like at the top or the bottom of the effect stack. So these are alter, clone, and delete are like super, super useful macros. You're going to find, if you go looking in mods these days, you're going to find these things all over the place because they're incredibly, incredibly useful. All right, so let's go to our spells first. So let's go to our spells, and let's just grab one, and we'll just create a copy because it doesn't really matter what it is. It's G3C brush. Let's start with the let me think here for a minute. Yeah, I think we're gonna need 7 spells, and I'll tell you why. There's an opcode that lets you set a spell state, but there's not an opcode that lets you remove a spell state. So the actual spell states I'm going to farm out to separate spells, because then we can remove those with 321s. Yeah, I think that's going to have to be how I do it. So let's see, brush. So I already set G3C brush red as what happens if you're already painted red. Let's do all right, what's the letter after? Well, let's do brew. We'll do R0. So this is going to be the spell that does nothing other than set the spell state of red. We don't want to. That's going to be purely internal, so none of this. None of this. It ain't. 0. This bam. And we only want it to do one thing. No projectile. Because it's single target. And it's going to be, I think it's like 328, I think is our spell states. Yep, set spell state. All right, and we want it to be Icewind Dale 2 mode. This we're going to leave blank because we're going to have to do the same thing for these spells. It's going to be... Now, he didn't say how long somebody should remain painted. So what we're going to do is we're going to... I'm going to arbitrarily say, hey, if you get painted, let's have it last a turn. Because a turn is probably going to cover most combat. And no save. All right, and then also to add the actual... we're going to set color. We're going to set it everywhere. So on the preset target, and this is for the red. So we've got that. I don't think these, I'm not sure if these work in game, like on an actual character, because they don't have the shading. So let's just try the straight up, where was it? Well, let's try this, because that's probably red enough. And same thing, we want this to be instant limited for a turn. 100, no save. All right. All right. All right. So that's going to be the spell to color people red. Okay. So now we're going to use that spell as a basis for all three of them to make ourselves, make our lives a little bit easier. So we are going to, because we're going to have to do the same thing, right? Where it's going to be, you know, we can't rely on the spell states being what they are. So we are going to copy G3 CIP spell, and then G3 bra red 0 dot spell to the override. And we're going to actually use this as the, oh, this should be C. 3, 4, yep. And we're actually going to use one spell file as the basis for all three of these. So first we're going to copy it over. But we are targeting, what is it? Opcode 328. And there's only one here, so we can just do match opcode 328. We don't need to do the string match because that 328, because there's only two effects, that 328 is specific enough. And that is, let's see, parameter 2. So in this case, we want parameter 2 equal G3 brush red. Now we're going to make the green version of this. And we need to do one other thing when we make the green version of this, because we also need to change that color. Right, the green one should be changing you to, instead of red, we want it to be something green. So how about 53? So this is parameter 1, opcode 7. So parameter 1 on opcode 7, and we want to change to what I say, 53. All right, and then we're going to make our blue one. Our blue one. And our blue one, what color should we use? Get back here. Did I minimize it? Yeah. Hold on, what is going on here? Oh, okay. I minimized it somewhere. So dark blue. Yeah, let's do 58. This one, 58. And then we'll close that action if. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our override folder. Let's go ahead and move all these stuff back to where they should be for right now. All right, so let's X. to G3CIP, spell, put the item in the right folder. All right, so with that done, let's save everything. And let's see if we've done that correctly. We have not. Oh, because I haven't done my translations yet. Okay. So for now, I'm going to comment these out just so I can get it to install, because we're going to worry about the names and all that stuff later. So there we go. All right, so let's come back to our tree and let's see if that worked. Let's check our spells. G3. All right, so on brush 0, this is blue. So it's setting it to blue, and it's using the blue state. On the green, it's setting it to green, and we're using the green state. And on R0, it should be red in the red state. Yep, red and the red state. Okay, so these are our 3 spells that will actually set the spell states and actually turn the target the desired color. So now we want to make, I'm just going to copy one of these. So this one is going to be, this is going to be the brush in. So this is going to be the spell that goes into effect if it's our first time hitting the target. So this one is simple. There's nothing complicated. If they're not already a color, it's going to apply one of those spells that we just created at random. So we're going to add an effect. It's going to be a cast spell. Where's our 146? So yes, we have a spell casting a spell. It's going to cast a spell. It's going to cast it instantly. It's going to cast it. In this case, we're going to cast it permanently because the spell itself has a duration. And because it's supposed to be a 33% chance for each, this one is going to go from 0 to 33. And we're going to cast G3 brush red. All right, now we're going to duplicate that effect. Except this one is going to go from 34 to 67. Because remember, the effects collectively are a D100. So this one from 34 to 67 is going to be a green. And then we're going to duplicate it one more time. And now we're going to go 68. Now the numbers, the percentage dial actually ends at 99. By convention, we always use 100. And actually, I think it should be 67. Yeah, 67 to 100. And this one is going to be blue. No save, instant permanent. So we should have 0 to 33, 34. That should be 34 to 66. That's where we're messing up. 34 to 66, 67 to 100. Like I said, the max probability for 1 is actually 99, but by convention, everybody uses 100, even though it's redundant. So the none spell does nothing except for it'll cast one of these 3 spells. Those 3 spells individually will set a color. Now, Skelly is properly pointing out that I have omitted something when we talk about colors. So colors, these are defined in a file called impalette. And it's important because once you get up to, it lists colors above 200. But this is deceptive because colors above 200 are random. So even though it says, oh, hey, you can use 2 or 3 as a valid value, you can, but it's not actually going to be this. Colors above 200 are defined in the rand color. So color 200, if you were actually set something to color 200, it would actually be set to color 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 100, etc., etc. And you can see that's because this is generally a way to randomize colors for peasants or for commoners or for nobles. So it's a way that you could you can use the same creature, right? If you want to have 10 of the exact same copy of a commoner in an area, you can, and then you give them like random hair, random skin, or random noble colors. The noble colors tend to be a little brighter, more flashy. The commoner colors tend to be a little more gray and brown. It's not as pronounced. Like Icewind Dale, like the commoners wear almost nothing but shades of brown. They get a little more color in Athkatla in Baldur's Gate 2. But the random colors are basically a way for you to essentially use the same creature and have them be unique. Now you'll notice you can refer random colors within itself. I remember somebody was had come into the G3 Discord and mentioned that Baron Ployer, who's the villain in Jaheira's personal quest, had like bright blue hair. And it's basically because he was assigned like a generic hair and then got bumped through a couple of other random tables and ended up with just this shockingly wild blue hair. So just know that anything over 200 is going to be a random color, and it's going to be defined by this table. The other thing that you need to be aware of when you're bouncing between the originals and Baldur's Gate 2, or the original, is that the EEs have 1 pixel productions built in, and 1 pixel productions greatly expands in palette. So I think once you get to, I want to say it's about 130 or 140, that's where the original Baldur's Gate 2 palette ends. Whereas EE has like a full 0 to 200 palette, right? There's a full, every one of those colors is defined. So it's just something you want to be a little careful when you're going between games. Both of these, all the colors that we're using here are in the low range, so they're gonna be the same between the EEs and the originals. But that's another thing you want to be careful of with color. All right, so we've got our, if they've never been hit by anything, they'll get hit by In. In will randomly cast one of these 3 spells. These 3 spells simply set a color. They change the color and then they set the according spell state. So this is about our simplest cases we can get. All right. So now let's add a copy of, do they not affect items? I actually didn't know that. All right, so now we're going to do if, so the dot red is if the target has already been painted red, these are now the effects. So we're going to have to go to our table here of what he submitted. So if they're already red and they get hit by red again, he wants 46 slashing damage and then some blood and gory effect, okay? If they're red and they're hit by green, they get knocked unconscious for a round with a save. And if they're red and they're hit by blue, nearby enemies allies are protected. Oh, so this needs to be area of effect. Oh, okay. All right, this is problematic. Oh, and then he has other ones to do wielder and caster. Oh, this is really annoying. We're going to need more spells than I thought. So I was going to do all of these as one spell, but because one of these is area of effect, this needs to be a separate spell because you can't do disparate projectiles. And same with this one, because it's, well, I guess we can target the caster within it. Target is struck by Call Lightning. Call Lightning might be its own projectile. I need to double check. And that one also involves a 232. Okay. All right, well, let's focus on what we can do. All right, so I'm going to keep it so that by convention, I'm going to go 0 to 33 is going to be red, 34 to 66 is green, and then 67 to 100 is going to be blue. So if we're red and we get hit by the red range, actually, let me just remove these to begin with. It's going to be damage, and he wants a bloody effect, right? We're talking about red on red, 46 slashing damage. All right. Let me make sure I'm in the right place. All right, save this before we start moving into it. Okay. So damage is easy. We're going to add an effect. Add an effect, please. Oh, I did it. We want damage, which is opcode 12. We want it on the preset target. We want... So amount is used for static damage, but we're rolling damage. So we want normal damage. It's going to be slashing. Damage is always done in a permanent mode. This is only going to be for red on red, so this is 0 to 33. The number of dice thrown is going to be 4. And the die size minimum level is 6. So this is 46 of slashing damage on a 0 to 33 roll. So let me think what else we need to do here. So they're red. They get hit by red. We don't need to change their color. And then for effects, he wants a visual effect, so that's going to be a 215. Play visual effect on the preset target. Over target attached. It's permanent. 0 to 33. And let's take a quick look through our VVCs and see, because I know we've got blood effects, but I don't know what they are offhand. So let's go to our VVCs and see what we have available in terms of blood or other good stuff. Oh, actually, you know, it might be, let's look through our BAMs. Are we lucky enough and there's a blood? Oh, look at all this blood. None of these are terribly exciting. Problem is there's too many BAMs. I know there are fire ones. Yeah, let's just do one of the blood ones. We can worry about specifics later. Because that's the thing, we can spend all day looking through BAMs for something that we think is appropriate. All right, so we're going to go back here. Damage, play visual effect. And we want to just straight up play. Come on. Blood, I think the last one was actually red blood. Right? Yeah, so they'll get a little blood spray. It's not dramatic, but it fulfills what we need. All right, so it's going to do damage. It's going to do this. And then because it's red being painted on red, oh, I know what I do. As the very first effect, we wanted to remove the existing coloring. So we're going to first, in all occasions, remove effects by resource on the preset target. Instant permanent. And this is on all occasions. Actually, no. Yeah, no, on all occasions, let's remove it. We're going to remove the spell that causes the red tint. Because what we're going to do is whatever color they get hit with, we're going to reapply it. So the first thing this does, so if I'm painted red, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that red tint, and then we're going to reapply it. Save, overwrite, okay. So we're going to copy these. We're basically going to reapply it on this spell. So I should have kept those. All right. So let's move these and pair them with, yeah. So basically on 0 to 33, yeah, you're going to get repainted as red. You're going to take the damage and you're going to get the blood splash. So that's going to be on red. So if you're red and you get hit with green, the target must save versus death or be knocked unconscious for 1 round. All right. So unconsciousness is, let's add an effect. Unconsciousness is internally a sleep effect. Sleep on the preset target. Awaken on damage, yes. It's going to be instant limited because it's going to last for 1 round. Since this is only for the green effect, this is going to be 34 to 67, or 66, I should say. And it's going to be a save versus death to avoid. And we want it to use the, where's our sleep icon? There it is. Actually, do we have an unconscious? Yeah, we have an unconscious icon. Sleep preset target, yes. It's limited for 6 seconds. We got that, and then we're also going to, yeah. So if they're red and they get hit by this, it's going to be removed. We're going to apply the green, and then we're going to make them sleep. That is correct. Okay. All right, now for blue. Blue, we're going to have to go to a new spell, and the reason why is because he wants this to be an area of effect thing. So let's see what red to blue does. It's red hit by blue. All nearby enemies and allies are protected from lightning damage, and he wants the protection from evil visual to play on everything for a 15 radius. Okay. All right, so in this one, we're going to need a separate spell. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste it. I sell the preset target, cast instantly. This one, we're going to say this. We're going to call this B1, just because we're running out of spaces here. All right, we're going to save this. Let's grab the B. We're going to call this B1. Okay, now for our projectile. I think there's a whole bunch of, no, we don't want any of the 1 pixel production ones. Area ignore center, no. Call lightning. There's a whole series of like generic, not the glows, not the hits. Instant area effect. I'm pretty sure this is it. This does 15-foot radius, and it hits everybody, and no animations. Yeah, this is what we want. Okay. All right, and it's going to, what is a lightning resistance of 50%. And we want a protection from evil visual. Okay. So the lightning resist is easy enough. Electric resistance bonus, update value. Want it to be a 50% bonus. He doesn't specify, so I'm going to say for 1 round, no save. And then we also want the portrait icon that goes with that, which is, I think, op 142. Yep. Also on the preset target. And we want one of the protection for fire, acid, cold, electricity. There it is. It's limited also for 6 seconds. No save, no magic resistance. Okay. And then he also wants it to play the visual for protected from evil. We're going to play a visual effect or target attached. It's limited for instant permanent. 0 duration. And then let's take a quick look. Oops. What visual does protection from evil use? Evil uses 215. S protect. All right, easy enough. S protect. All right. All right, I think that's everything for this. Oh, did it not? Okay, yeah, no, it did get that. Okay. All right, save, overwrite, okay. So that is we're painted red and we've been hit. So there is one more thing. All right, so we have the special red to green to blue sequence. So if they're already painted red and they've been hit by green, then I also want to add a special. This is what I wanted that one more state for. So we're going to have a 328. We're going to set the spell state to, and in this case, it's going to be, then we want Isodale 2 mode. This is going to be the special red-green state. And we're going to set it for 60 seconds. And we're going to need to do this custom. No save, because this is obviously something we want to go through. All right. So let's save. Overwrite. Okay. So let's do a little bit of. Okay, so we've got B0. Okay, we're going to have to copy all these over. So we're also going to create. We're going to grab out of the override. All right, so blue 1 to blue 1. That's fine. That doesn't need any adjustments. We are going to need for SR, we are going to need to adapt that 328 to green. Yeah, and that's the only 328 in this spell, right? Yep, so we don't need to be any more specific. So this will set it to that special red-green state. Yep, that's parameter 2. Double check that. Get back here. Parameter 2, except this is going to be the red-green state. That's what we need to change. Okay. All right, yeah, this is, as you can see, this gets very complicated very, very quickly. So now let's do, actually, you know what? We're an hour and 10 into this. Why don't we take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll do the green and the blue and hopefully the rogue stone. So let's go ahead and take a quick break here. I'm going to grab some tea and we'll be back in, 3-4 minutes. All right, so I'm glad I stepped away and thought about it because I realized I did forget one kind of important thing here. So let's refresh this tree really quick. So these spells that set colors also need to block the effect that will happen if they're not already set to a color. So we want to block the in spell. There we go. Because remember how the item works is it applies the red, green, blue spells. Well, it applies blockages for those, then applies the red, green, blue spells, and then it does the in spell. So once a color gets set, the color gets set for 60 seconds. So we're going to block the no color spell for 60 seconds. So that's, and then the nice thing is because all these spells get copied from red, the next time it gets installed, that'll propagate out to the green and the blue. All right, so in fact, let me go ahead and grab that out of the override now so that it will be propagated before I forget. All right, so on to the green on green. So let's grab the red spell. We're going to copy it. It's going to be the green spell. Okay. Now we're going to start by removing the green coloring as the first step. All right, so if you're green and you hit by red, cursed is by the contagion spell, but as a semi-permanent curse. Okay. Semi-permanent is not specific. With a -4 save first breath. All right, so our first step is, what does the contagion spell do? Contagion, major disease and weakness. Saving throw negates. Boils, blotches, legions. Dexterity, strength, and charisma are reduced by 2. Afflicted character is also slowed. And persist until the character receives cure disease. Okay. Yep, hits strength for 2, hits charisma and dexterity for 2, and it gets slowed. Okay. I'm not going to grab the visual effect or the RGB because those might interfere with the other stuff we have going on. And then this is injuries 127. This is basically like undead or golem immunity. So we are gonna grab those. We're gonna grab all these effects. And we're gonna come back to our green. So these are the old effects. So let's paste these. Now the difference is we need to change this range from 0 to 33. And we need to adjust it to, this needs to be a self-referential spell now. So this is going to be G3C brush G, update value. Same thing, 0 to 33. Oh, and the power should be 0. Oh, and then I think he also wanted a different save, right? A -4 save versus breath. right, so not smell, but breath, and at -4. Oops. -4. Right, power up. Power 0, charisma 0 to 33. Breath at -4. Power 0, 0 to 33. So you notice you can actually select multiple saves. And if you do so, the target will save against the save that is most favorable to them. So you can actually select multiple things to save against. I mean, generally don't, because that's not how it works in pen and paper, but it's there. All right, so I want this to be 0 to 33. It's going to be save first breath. Again at -4. I think we can attach an icon to this. Can we not? We can. Let's attach a slow icon. Because they outright get the disease icon. Yeah. Power 0. 0 to 33. This is going to be on breath. Again at a -4. I'm going to display the string. Stricken by a foul disease. 4 and same thing. Probability is 33. All right, so that is our disease. So if we were green and we get hit by red, we strip out the green coating, we apply the red coating, and then we do the disease. All right, now if we're green and we're hit by green, the target is made invisible, but takes 5 poison damage per second for a round. Okay. So let's dump. It's not going to be sleep anymore. They're going to go, I think invisible is just its own. Yep, invisible. Reset target. Invisibility type normal improved. We just want normal. It's going to be for 6 seconds. And this is going to be from 34 to 66. Boom and boom. Now we're going to add poison. Actually, hold on. Let's remove that. Let's copy this because that'll be easier. So poison, we're going to need 2 effects. The last one is going to be poison, which is op 25. We want to do amount damage per second. So we're going to do, the amount is 5. So this is 5 damage per second. Instant limited, we want it to last for a round. 33 to 66, no save. We want to use the poison icon attached to it. Before that, though, we want to say that if the person has a poison resistance poison resistance is equal to or greater than 100 to block this spell so that they so to make them actually immune to poison. G3C brush G. So we order these in a very specific way, right? So if they're green and they're hit by green, first it removes green, then it reapplies green, it turns them invisible, and then if they have greater or equal to 100% poison resistance, block the remainder of the effects, and the only effect left is poison. So you don't want to put this above invisibility because then it would block invisibility too, or the reapplication of the green color. So we want to make sure that this goes there. All right. So that's the poison, and yeah, it's 5 per second for 6 seconds, which I think is exactly what he wanted. All right. Now, if they're green and they're hit by blue, one of two things is going to happen. If this is the red-green-blue combo, everything gets wiped and they get a rogue stone. Now, if they're coming for, if this is like a blue-green-blue, then the target is hasted and gets a -10 to melee damage. And then they also, they're hasted, take a 10 penalty to melee damage, and then if they actually do land an attack, they must save or spell or take lightning damage. Okay. So let's just cover the simple that this is green followed by blue. Let's do that first. All right. This might need to be another separate spell. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's going to have to be. So we're going to rename this. We're going to make blue 2. All right. So let's get back here. All right, save, overwrite. Okay. Let's grab blue 1. We're going to copy this to blue 2. Yeah, Wandering Scholar, so will I. This is one of those items too that when I go to test it, it's probably going to take another session, so I will be doing that offline. All right, so hasted, 10 penalty to melee. All right, let's do that first. The haste is easy enough. All right, haste is opcode 16. Haste preset target, regular haste for 1 round. All right. And then also an effect for the icon. Also for 6 seconds, 0 to 100. All right, there's that. Haste and select. We want melee damage, not melee hit effect. Melee THAC0, melee weapon damage bonus. That's what we're looking for. -10 increment for 6 seconds. Okay, so there's that. And then finally, each time they land an attack, they must save or spells. Okay, so this is going to be, let's see, I think we can do this with a 232. The condition, cast spell on condition, cast it on self. I've got it killed. I don't think we have a way we can do an attack. Oh, I'd have to do it as like a melee hit effect. Yeah, I think that's our only way we can do it. All right. It's a melee hit effect. Guess what? Another spell. Default. This is going to be instant limited for... This is also providing a wonderful example of how things spiral out of control very quickly. So we're going to do this as a string. This is going to be a G3C B3. Those -10, and they're going to melee. So melee hit effect, think of something like Assassin's Poison, right? This is something that you cast, and then whatever, it's like poisoning your weapon. You add a poison effect to whatever additional thing that you're doing. So we're going to add a melee effect for 6 seconds. Now we need to make that melee effect. All right, save, overwrite, okay. one more spell. I mean, why not? All right, so this one is just going to be straight up. It's going to be done to the caster. And it's 2d12 lightning, I think it was. Save or spell, 2d12 lightning. Okay. Save or spell for electricity damage, normal, permanent. I mean, this is one of those things where I'm glad we covered spell states because those are useful. I don't think the rest of the stream is being terribly useful because none of you should ever try an abomination of an item like this. Yeah, I think maybe I should have talked about spell states and then just said I'll do the rest of this offline because this is horrific is the word I'm looking for. And yes, the Wandering Scholar's words are going to be absolutely true. This will not work the first time, which means I'm going to have hours of time trying to fix this offline. All right, so that is the, we're painted green and we get hit. Ta-da. So now let's do the I'm painted blue and I get hit. No, not that. I want the, here it is. This is the one I want to copy. I'm blue and I've been hit. Okay. Now our blue option is for blue and blue. Our blue are hit by red. They're struck by lightning with the call lightning animation. Okay, I think the call lightning is, well, let's double check. I think it's, if it's a projectile, we have to go external. But I think it is just at 215. It uses the call lightning chain. But we don't actually want this to chain like call lightning. We just want it to play. Yeah, we can do that. We can get away with just a 215 on this. Okay. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. Call lightning does use a projectile, but it's a special projectile because it jumps from target to target. We're just going to find the underlying BAM that plays and play that because this is effectively just supposed to be, and we're doing 77 because, you know, it's your tabletop session, all those 7-sided dice you have lying around. That's going to be electricity damage, permanent, 0 to 33. And then we are going to play a visual effect. Let's see. Do we have... I would guess the Call Lie is probably our Call Lightning VVC. Who wants to take bets on that? Yep, that's Call Lightning. All right. I love it when it's easy. Oh, did I update that? I did not. Okay, update. There. Now it'll play Call Lightning. All right, so there's our 77 with the little Call Lightning zippy zap. All right, so that's blue being hit by red. Blue being hit by green. Wielder and the caster take 2d4 cold and are slowed. Now, does the save versus breath negate the slow or the slow and the cold damage? I'm gonna interpret that as it negates the slow. All right, so this is blue versus blue. For once, we're not going to an external spell for blue. How about it? Go us. All right, we're going to copy. We're going to paste. I'm just going to paste in the wrong spot. All right, so we're going to do to the preset target, we're going to do cold damage. We're going to do 2d4. Except this is going to be the 67, or sorry, 167. And the eagle-eyed among you will notice that we do have a magic cold and a magic fire entry here. On the original game, these work perfectly fine as damage types. But in the original game, if you were killed by magic cold or magical fire, the game crashed. So in the original, like in BG2 Fix Pack, we basically systematically changed everything that did magic cold or magic fire over to cold and fire because, the game crashing is suboptimal. The good news is the EEs have fixed these so that these work, so that you can now distinguish cold from magic cold and fire from magic fire. But nobody's kind of gone back through and bothered to do that. So everything's still, so these are pretty much just unused. So there's a future tweak idea if somebody wants to go back and rules lawyer and figures out, you know, is a fireball, is that fire? Is that magical fire? Have fun. So that's why I'm using cold and not magical cold, even though these are clearly magical cold effects. All right, so that's to the target. Now let's do it to the caster. So they both get 2d4 cold damage. And then what was the other thing? And then they both also get slowed, but they can save against that. Save versus breath. All right. I'm going to copy, paste. In this case, we want, let's see, where's slow? There it is. Slow to self. If it's unused, we'll set that to 0. This is going to be limited for 6 seconds. And have a breath save. One of the things you need to be careful of, especially when you're copying stuff over from damage, you'll notice that these two fields do double duty, and it depends on the opcode. You can check the ISDP for when these mean dice and for when these mean maximum and minimum level. So if I were to leave this right now, because it has a maximum level of 2, it means that any creature of level 3 or hit dice 3 or higher would be immune to this effect. So we want to set these to 0 to make sure it goes into effect. For the most part, these default to 0, but because I was copying it over from the damage effect, these were pre-filled in. So that's just something you want to be careful of. These fields do matter. You know, if you have spells that, you know, when like Cloud Kill kills everything from like 5 hit dice or under, these are how they tailor those effects to specific hit dice, is using these fields. So that's not something that's come up once, but I figured while we're talking about it. For other things like damage, these mean straight up dice, you know, dice and the dice size. But for the most part, these means maximum and minimum levels. And if it means 0, it means no max or no min. So we want this obviously to apply to everybody. So no max, no min. All right, so we want to slow. We also want to add a portrait icon to match that. It's out here in opcode 142. We'll do the self one first. Where's our slow? And this is going to be from 67 to 100. Also a breath save. All right, so we got. So now let's copy these, and paste them, and now they're going to be for the target. Okay. Get back here. Okay, so that should be everything except for the special red, green, blue. Right? Right. So let's try and sort that one out. So if you're red, so this is, all right, so this is red to red. This is red to green. Or sorry, this is the red green. This is red to green to blue. So our G3C brush B2 is what gets cast if you're going red to green to blue. Now we're going to let me think, because we do have a special state that gets set for red green. All right, so let's add an effect ahead of this. And basically, if we are in If we are in that special, if we're in, okay, to the preset target, and I should L2 mode. We'll update that later. So if we are in, this is going to be 67 to 100. So if we're in that special red-green mode, we want to block, or not spell state, sorry. Immune to the resource message. If we are in that special spell state, the spell state is that red-green, then we want to block the specific blue 2 update value. Right, so if we're in red-green and then we get hit with blue, then we're going to block the normal green to blue effects. And instead, we are going to, let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's duplicate this. All right. So one of these will be if the spell state is not equal. So if it's equal, we're blocking blue 2. If we are equal, then we're going to block the new one that we're going to make. So in this case, we're going to make a blue 4 because we have not had enough spells yet. All right, so blue 4, and we'll copy this. Basically, we're going to cast both of these and just trust that one of them is going to get blocked. All right, now let's save this really quick. All right, blue 4. Blue 4, this is our special red to green to blue. All previous effects are negated, and a rogue stone is created in the target's inventory. All right, so first of all, this needs to have no area of effect. We are using, I think it's op 122, I think is inventory item. Yep, create inventory item. We're going to create 1. This is unused. We'll set that to 0. Instant permanent, 100%. The resource should be, let's see, what are rogue stones? Rogue stones are MISC 45. Let's get back here. MISC 45. Update value. No save. No minimums. No max. Okay. So, and it's good that we're doing this last because we're going to create the inventory item and then we're going to create a bunch of 321s. Then 321s, remember, remove other spells. So on the preset target, and this is going to be instant limiter and instant permanent. Doesn't really matter on this, but we'll do instant permanent for 100. All right, so now all of these spells that we've created, we're going to delete all of them. So blue 0 goes away. And this is just the spell that does the blue painting. All right, we're going to copy that. We're going to paste that. What is next? B1. Right, that did update, yep. B2. B3. Now B4 is itself, so we don't want to remove itself. Although, yeah. All right. After B3, G0. R0. What else do we have? Rust B. Rust G. I think in should be our last one. That's the item. That's the in. Oh, yeah. We still have an R. And the R. Okay. So that should be that. One thing we do need to do, though, is on the... Let's see. On the blue, we now need to... Wait, hold on. No, if we were green and we're going to blue, it's on this one. Okay. Yeah, same thing. We need to set the spell states for these two dynamically. So this is going to be on brush G. Brush G. Except this is opcode 324. We're looking for the red-green. And the nice thing is, so that will match both of these, but that's what we want because one is spell state equal and the other one is spell state not equal. And in both cases, we want it to match that red-green. So alter, clone, and delete effect will match every effect that it can find that matches. So... Well, this one is automatically, this one is not possible on the original because 324, 328, 321, and spell states are all EE exclusive things. So, oh, and that shouldn't be 8, that should be G. So this item is very much an EE only item. I don't see any way you can possibly do this on the original without ridiculous numbers of compatibility works around. So let's now double check that we have, all right, that creates R1, G0, and B1, but we also have, all right, B1, I think we have all the way up to B4, B2, yep. B4, all right, what else we got here? Let me close these. Make sure that we're getting everything copied over. So R0 becomes G0 and B0. All right. But B1, 2, and 3, and 4 are being copied. G0 and R0 are, that's an original, that's being copied from that. Brush B and brush G. And I also need a brush blue. But that one doesn't need any special treatment, so I can just do that here straight up. Blue. Yeah, I mean, you might be able to do something with like secondary types. That's often where you get magic in the original, but this item is just, it's not worth it. BG, and then I also need to copy over. So BG, so B is there, R is there, G is there, in also needs to be accounted for, but it also doesn't need any special treatment. Okay. At least I don't think so. Let's double check that for the B and the N. The N, or sorry, the N, just, yeah, that doesn't do anything special. R doesn't refer to... Oh, yeah, it does. I thought R... Oh, yeah, R's would be R to be canceled. B is what I'm looking for. Sorry, I wanted to make sure there's nothing special in B. It does set a spell state. It shouldn't be. Yeah, this is a leftover. Yeah, that needs to be removed. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a dare. I dare somebody else to do it. Krebs Dak could do it since this is his item idea. All right, so I think that's everything. So obviously, I'm not going to test this on stream because we don't have another 6 hours. So let me grab everything back to the item. These are all spells, yeah. All right, I'm going to uninstall here really quick and make sure I got everything because that should give us a clean override folder. Yep, okay. Now let's see. There's no brew R1. Oh, because these are all B ones. Yeah, these are the B series, not R's. All right, let's try that again. You don't have a brew B1. Double check that this is from the spell folder spell. Oh, did I drop? Oh, did I drop this in the item folder? No, where did I drop them then? Where did these go? If I just did all that work and then lost these items, I'm going to be very upset. All right, good thing is I can just undo. So wherever I did end up pasting them. All right, so I suppose I can probably go back to the replay and see what stupid thing I did with those. There we go. Okay. All right, so let's just take a look about how, in theory, this should work. And I still haven't even done the basic description for the item. All right, G33 Rush. All right, so it hits you. If you're not in any of these states, the red, green, blue spells get blocked. And you go to the end spell. The end spell basically casts either R0, G0, or B0. Those spells respectively set the colors. All right, blue 0 turns you blue, sets the blue state, and blocks the end spell. Correct. And then those are all copied from the same source, so these two ones I know are fine. Now, if you are red and you get hit by red, then you do this, which removes the red paint and then reapplies red or green or blue. All right, and if you're in green and you get hit to blue, this is going to be the special. Oh, I'm glad I checked because we are modifying the wrong value here. We should be messing with parameter 1, not 2 on this opcode 324. Okay, I'm glad I checked that. That is for the green. We want parameter 1. All right, let's reinstall really quick. Green. There we go. Yeah, if you're in depending on whether you're red green or not red green, you get 2 or 4. 4 is the one that kills like everything and gives you a rogue stone. Okay. And then 2 does the normal thing. All right. That is about as willing as I am to test this at the moment. So I'm gonna have to go into the game and see if any of this spaghetti actually works. But that was a slog of an item. Let's see if there's something quickly after it that we can. Oh, and then I need to do a description for it. Oh, he didn't write a description, other than all this crazy stuff that happens. All right, so I'm fairly certain this is doable. All right, let's go back to the game. This is going to be 29 and 30. All right, the Realmshaper's brush. All right, so let's grab the halberd. Basic information to start with. Grab Dragon's Breath as our baseline, since this is what we used as a baseline. Except it's just 1d10 plus 4. Here's 13 strength. Except we have a slightly different combat abilities section. That should be like that while we're here. All right. Combat abilities. All right. Delete. All right. There we go. Oh, and then we also need the final rogue stone. All right, so this looks nothing like other descriptions, but I don't really have the energy to clean this up for right now. We'll do that later. But let's come back here and enable these. Back to the name and description. All right, double check that this installs. It installs. Let's add all these. Tortoise add. Grab the item 2. All right. And right now, I don't like the fact that I have no flavor text. That's also something that we need to fix. All this is commit, and push. Okay. All right. So we're already at 2 hours, but I want to do something fun at least to close this out. We did the Executioner Penalty yesterday. This one's gonna be this might be the all day tomorrow. Let's try knocking out the Robe of Archmage and the Emerald Ioun stone. Let's see. Casting time, saving through bonus, regeneration, immunity to necromantic spells, the Emerald Ioun stone, negative plane protection. Okay, both these should be nice and simple, so we can do these both, I think, fairly quickly. This is a crazy level power. This is basically a Vecna robe, except even better. Wow, okay, so this is going to be wildly overpowered, but... Yeah, so tomorrow, tomorrow we'll do upgradable items, because I think that's kind of what we're down to, right? We're down to Subtle Doctor's item, which I've been avoiding. We've got Minstrel's Defense. This one, I looked ahead, and basically they have a parry ability, which parrying is kind of hard to do in a smooth way. Spiked armor is pretty simple. I think it's just basically a retaliation effect. Darts, one of these darts upgrades, and then same with the lucky sweater. One of the lucky sweaters also upgrades. And then the defender weapon is going to be interesting because I did a defender version of Drit's Twinkle. So defender items are interesting in that it's a good showcase of how limited items can be, in that you can't attach effects to an item. So effectively, to do a defender item, you need to have multiple copies of the item. So that'll be a good lesson to look at that. But yeah, tomorrow we'll do some upgradable stuff to break this up. But let's get through our last couple of items here. I think we can do these fairly quickly. But it does occur to me that Realmshaper's brush we didn't set a price for. So really quick, let's add Realmshaper's brush. Let's see. I mean, what does a Dragon's Breath go for? 6,500. Black Mist is 11.5. Wave is 11.5. Ravager 7,900. Yeah, let's say 8,500. And the other thing I need to do, so now we have an item on this list that it's possible that it doesn't even exist, right? Like if you're installing on the original, or if you're installing the E's and there's not enough spell states, this item may not exist. So we need to go down here to our pricing array, and we're also going to add, so but only is a clause that basically says if the item doesn't change, don't bother copying it. We're also going to add an if exists. So that means, like, if you try to copy this item that doesn't exist, that's fine. That's no problem. If you don't have this, it would hit this item and say, hey, this item doesn't exist. It'll throw an error and halt your install. So we add an if exists because we now have the possibility that we're trying to process an item that may not exist in the game. So, all right. So let's go back to, we're starting with that Mage Robe. The Rogue of the Archmage, Jasteya. Is this a Jasteya tribute item? Is this a Jasteya tribute item? Everybody knows Jasteya is a paladin, not an archmage. Everybody knows that. All right. All right, so yeah, I think we can start with an Archmage robe. And then it's just a whole bunch of equipping effects. So that's easy enough. So let's find an item. Let's go Archmage. Go Robe with a good Archmage eye. Got a copy of this is going to be G3C Jast.item. And most of these effects we should have already, we should already have present. Oh, hold on. Let's go back. Yeah, all right. I think I grabbed the fake. Yeah, I did. There's two robes of the Archmage, of the good Archmage specifically, and one of them is like a leftover item that doesn't actually do anything. So I copied the wrong one. Okay. Display portrait icon is not going to have magic resistance, but I'm going to leave. I'm going to remove that. The armor class bonus, it's going to be, we're setting it to base of 0, not 5. It doesn't have a magic resistance. It doesn't have saves. Yes. It does have a casting. Oh, it has saving throw bonuses of 2. All right, let's go back to the item. All right, these saving throw bonuses are all 1. We're going to change these to 2. So remember how we used alter effect? This is something that I could just leave these as 1 in the item file itself. And then when I copy it to the game, I can use alter effect and change all of these to 2. So that's one way that you can use like alter effect to cut down on your near infinity time. All right, so we got the armor class. We've got the saving throws, generation of 1 hit point per round, and immunity to, let's grab the casting time. I think that we can straight up copy from Vecna. Robe of Vecna. Oh, yeah, save changes before we go. The increase casting speed. It does it by 4, but... Alright, copy. G3CJ. Paste. Except the casting is going to be by 2, not by 4. Alright. And then let's go with the Ring of Regeneration to get our... Get our regeneration effect. Yep, and that includes a portrait icon. Copy. G3C Jast. Oh. All right. Paste. All right, we've got regeneration, and it is 1 hit points per 6 seconds. So yes, that is once per round. So that's even the regeneration that we want. All right, so we've got the armor class, got the casting time, got the saving throws, got the 1 hit point round, immunity to necromantic spells. All right, the easiest way to do this is to, I forget which opcode it is, so I'm just going to look up the spell immunity necromancy. Yes, save changes again before I pop off. And it's basically a protection from spell school. So here's a good example of spell immunity sets a couple of spell states and modifies a script state. So these are all purely so that AI scripting can access this and understand that I am immune to the necromantic school. So I'm going to copy all of these, even though I'm going to end up deleting a lot of them, but we're going to copy all of these. So we want that same information to be conveyed if somebody is wearing this robe. So let's paste these in. All right. I don't want the lighting. I don't want the RGB. I don't want it to play sounds because this isn't a limited effect. We do want it to display the portrait icon of immunity to necromancy. So first we need to change these to instant while equipped with 0 duration. And then same thing, we want the immunity icon instant while equipped. Come on. And 0. And these all should be power level 0. This, we'll talk about portrait icons when we get into compatibility for the original Baldur's Gate 2. The EEs have a way to basically expand portrait icons in a very, very simple way and also provide an unlimited number of portrait icons, whereas the original, it's very difficult to add new icons and it's also limited in number. So I think that this is one of the EE exclusive icons that we're probably going to have to remove or do something different when we go to compatibility for the original. So I'm not going to worry too much about that right now, but that's just file that away that the two games have vastly different ways of handling spell icons, and that the EEs are much better. So we may have to do something slightly different. And then like these set spell states, these are also something that obviously the original doesn't have access to. Well equipped. The script state I suspect is the same though. Instant while equipped. All right, make sure that these are all, let's see, all target itself, all 0 power, all instant while equipped, all duration 0, no saves, no nothing. Okay. All right, save, overwrite. Okay, I think that's all the effects. Armor class 0, got it, casting time, saving throw bonus, regeneration. All right, and he wants a very specific weight of 6. Weight of 6. And this is copied from the good Archmage Robe, so it's got, we don't want the evil and neutral alignment. We just want this to be, it's open to all alignments, so we don't want to remove these. And he wants it usable just by mages, which it looks like it is set to already. All right, save, overwrite. Okay. I mean, in theory, he could want this only usable by mage could imply that he doesn't want sorcerers to be able to use it, but in general that usually isn't the case. So I'm not going to go ahead and restrict this to sorcerers because I suspect that that may not be what's actually desired here. So, and we'll come back and we'll do the descriptions later. First, let's do the Emerald Ioun Stone, negative plane protection, and saving throw bonuses 1. All right. So let's head to our existing Ioun Stone and see if anything's even close to that. Oh. Refresh the tree. All right. Regenerate armor class. That go in hit points. Intelligence, con, wisdom, armor class, and a save. Extra spells. And good old Wog Fey. And out of these, let's go with so Lavender. Yeah, because it at least has a save. All right. This is for Emerald, so we'll go G3C Emerald, not ITM. Okay, so let's do saving throws to all first. Remove that. Save first death bonus of 1. Let's copy. Now the EEs do have a. So you notice how we're specifying like each save individually. The E's do added an opcode that does like save to all. Hold on, there we go. So I could do these in one opcode, but because that's not in the original, that's why I'm doing these still individual, because I'm looking ahead to, you know, backporting this back to the original. So I'm going to keep these as 5 separate opcodes instead of taking advantage of that feature. Like if you know from the outset that an item is going to be only for the EEs, you can go ahead and do that straight off the bat. So what is it's an amulet. I forget the one that you get that has the negative plane protection. Is it the amulet? I think it's the amulet of power. Yep, immunity level drain. That's what we're looking for. Okay. So I'm going to grab all of these and then sort them out when I get to our new item. E3CM. All right, so there's all our saves. Okay. Oh, did I not copy this? Oh, for crying out loud. No, I actually canceled. I don't want to make that change. Amulet. All right, where's our amulet of power? Right. Yep. Copy. All right, now let's try this. Paste. There we go. Okay. So disable display spring, silence. That's not for this. Silence also not. Magic resistance bonus also no. Vocalize no. Display portrait icon, magic resistance also no. Immunity to effect level drain yes. Increase casting speed factor no. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 level drains. All those need to be blocked. We want to block the energy drain icon. We want to show the negative plane protection. We want to be immune to silence. No, we do not. We want to display an NPP. We do prevent silence. Nope. Display vocalize. Nope. And prevent domination. Also nope. All right, so we're disabling the level drain messages. We're preventing energy drain icon and the NPP, and we're blocking level drain. I think that's everything he wanted for this. NPP, saving throw bonuses, usable by everyone. Yep, all right. Let's save over it. Okay. So let's go to our override folder. Let's grab those 2 new items we just made. X. Bring them back here. Drop them in. V. Tortoise git add. Okay, now let's add those in their strings. Slightly simpler items. All right, so G3C Jast. This is going to be 31 and 32, if I'm not mistaken. 32. I don't know what his avatar is from, but it cracks me up every time I see it. It's going to be... Is it 1 R and 2 A's? 2 R's and 1 T. All right. See, and that should be Jast. And then... See, we have the Emerald. Emmer. And this is the Emerald Ioun stone. So it's going to be 33 and 34. All right. Go to the game. Yep. The fact that he already has strings for these makes me wonder if this is from his mod that he's now passes off to me. 33 and 34. All right. So the usable by is only for the original, so we eliminate that since this is the E description. And then it looks like we need to redo some formatting. So let's come back to the descriptions and do it like this. Okay, it's going to be armor class 0. It's going to be saving throws. How do the rings of protection do them? Saving throws +2. How does Vecna do its Robe's casting speed by 4, except in this case it's going to be Robe's casting speed by 2. Regeneration, let's check the ring of regen. See, that's a nice thing because we're copying everything from existing rings. We can also just copy their descriptions. Ring of regen. There we go. 1 hit point per round. And this is, I'm probably just going to take as it is. Then a weight of 6, boom. Emerald Ioun stone. So let's grab we can grab the saving throws straight up. Well, actually, hold on. Let's grab the Amulet of Power description first. Power, there we go. All right, Amulet of Power. We're just keeping the level drain, and then it's saving throws +1. And then we can delete those. Oh, and then we also need the standard weight, because again, the E's are obsessed with mentioning everything's weight. Except there shouldn't be a space for that colon. Alright, Emerald Ioun stone, Robe of Jasteya. And then, finally, we're going to remember this time to do prices for these. This is this. And then all right, so let's look at prices for these. Okay, so I put this in jokingly, but this is a ridiculous, just a ridiculous item. I mean, look at this. You've got saving throws +2. It sets armor class better than anything else you can get in the game for a mage robe, like by far. Improves casting speed and does a regen, and makes you immune to an entire school of magic. I mean, this is the Robe of Vecna's wet dream is what it is. So the Robe of Vecna is priced at a modest 20,000 gold. This has got to be higher than that. I mean, it's outclassed by armor class. It offers 10% magic resistance, which is equivalent-ish to 2 saving throws. But then you're trading 2 casting speed for regeneration and an entire immunity and an entire school of magic immunity. This is one of those items that if this wasn't a community item, I would not make, because this is like out of scope for the game. This is very, very powerful. So let's say 30,000 for that, because that puts it at 1.5 robes of Vecna. So the Emerald Ioun Stone. So this one does. So basically, it's the most notable aspect of the Amulet of Power, and then gives you saving throws. So what is the Amulet of Power priced at? Amulet of Power is... I'm guessing... Oh, it's because this item is given to you, which is why it's so low price, because that is also that is... Given the story of Baldur's Gate 2, negative plane protection is one of the absolute highest tier immunities you can get. So it is, but I mean, you're getting regeneration, and you're getting immunity to an entire school of magic. Necromancy means you don't have to worry about horde wilting, right? I mean, don't discount how big an entire school immunity is. That's huge. I mean, yeah, the casting speed is big in terms of offense, but again, just being able to walk through, all the necromancy, Finger of Death, right? You're immune to Finger of Death, you're immune to horde wilting, you're immune to a bunch of other skull trap, right? So that's pretty huge. So this price is not reflective of this item's ability. Is there anything else offhand that gives negative plane protection that we could look for a price comp? Let's see if we can find this in any other item descriptions. Oh, the Mace of Disruption does. And so does, okay. Yeah, but the Mace of Disruption, it's a mace, so this is going to be completely different. 7,500. All right, let's look at what are other Ioun stones priced at then. There's no other Ioun stone that comes close to this in terms of usefulness. So that one's 11, 5, 5, 5, 5. Long phase 5. And I'd say it's way more useful than all of these combined. So let's price, and the highest Ioun was what, 11 for a +1 Constitution. You're getting saves, and you're getting NPP. Let's go for 16,000 on this, because this is another, and it's the listed attributes aren't that much. It's just that because in the story of BG2, negative plane protection is such a premium given what you're doing for the first 3 chapters of the game. NPP is pretty huge, so I think that's a reasonable markup for that. So again, folks will disagree, but like that, both of these are the robe for sure is in-game material, right? I mean, you're gonna put one mage in Vecna and you're gonna put the other mage in Jasteya. The Emerald Ioun Stone is going to be situational, but it's going to be situational and incredibly useful for a substantial part of the game. Because even after you get past the rival conflicts that drive chapters 2 and 3, you still face life drainers kind of throughout the rest of the game. Just not as heavy, but it's still super, super useful. I mean, especially in chapter 6, right? You have to go back and clean out the nest again. So, So I think those are reasonable prices. Again, right? This is prices are something that we'll get feedback on, and people will tell us whether we're crazy or not. So let's go ahead and make sure everything installs, that we've done it right. Boom, boom, boom. Let's make sure our strings get assigned correctly. Come back here. Check these items. G3C chest. Or there's string Jasteya. Boom, 30,000. And then what's the Emerald Ioun stone? For 16. Yeah, I mean, because saving throws are always, every little bit you can get on saving throws is also useful, but then you also get NPP on top of it is pretty big. So, all right, so those were nice and easy to knock out. Let's see. Let's check the spiked armor. Because I think spiked armor might be our absolute last bog standard item. Okay, so while enraged, any opponent. Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just a straight up retaliation effect, it's a conditional retaliation. Oh, that is interesting. Due to its south, and it's also a dwarf only item, only for dwarven berserkers. Oh, interesting. I'm going to have to think about how to do that. That could be done, but having it only do that damage when the player is in a berserk state. I think we can do that, but I need to think about it. So, okay, yeah. So this is not going to be a nice, quick, and easy one that I can knock out here. So, all right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it. We did 3 items today. 2 of them took 15 minutes. And so, sometimes in modding, that's just how it goes, especially if you're trying to do something super complicated. So let's go ahead and make our usual edits here at the end. Well, first let's commit these 2 items. These are going to be the Professor Errata items. And I spelled it correctly. Okay, let's add this to, this is now the nightly of the 24th. Save. All right, let's update the TP2 with the current version. Save. Let's delete the old builds. All right. 10, 24 nightly. Versioning. Commit push. Boom, boom, boom. Close. Let's make our packages. Let's head on over to GitHub. Get the item pack. And you guys know the drill from here. This is going to be the nightly 10, 24, 24. So if you guys, while I'm doing this, if you guys have any questions or anything else, as Skelly has mentioned, tomorrow, let's try to do some upgradable items. We've got 2. We've got the sweater, and then one of the darts that's been proposed is also an upgradable item. So the nice thing is there's a really nice, there's an entire tutorial about upgradable items that was written by just a Cadillac of men. A brave Adonis wrote that tutorial that we can dip our toes into and see how it's done. I'm joking, of course. I wrote the tutorial, so I am flattering myself here. But yeah, we'll show how to do upgradable items. The nice thing is it's pretty straightforward. The only tricky bit is we'll be making multiple versions of the items, and then the nice thing is this will be our introduction to dialogue, because to do it, we're gonna need to do dialogue and a little bit of scripting. So we've already dipped our toes into scripting. We'll do a little bit more scripting. And then this is really going to be our first dip into decode and dialogue. So that'll be something that we haven't even looked at or thought about yet. So, but we'll go through that and, explain how decoding is different, the basic structure. Mikhail was joking earlier about how that Halberd was basically like state machines. Dialogue really is states. It's state machines, and it's it's going from node to node within a dialogue, and touching back on nodes and doing transitions, all that fun stuff. So, all right. So, Nightly 1024. All right, publish. It's a pre-release. Make sure our releases are all here. And there it is. Yeah, I love that line from, it's from Futurama, of course. It's when the Luck of the Fryish, when they're in old New York and they come across a statue of Fry's who he thinks is his brother Yancey. And Bender says, who is this, this brave Adonis, this Cadillac of men? And that's always been my go-to, fake praise lines, just because it's such a great episode of Futurama. Of all the many great episodes of Futurama, it's one of the greatest. So I think with that, we're going to call it. Like I said, we'll pick it up with upgradable items tomorrow at the same time, 9 a.m. California, and whatever time that is for you guys. And we will go from there. So thanks for joining, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.